Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to This or That. This is a really fun decluttering series I like to do here on my channel where I bring you into my brain while I go through my own library of tarot decks, a new term I'm trying to adopt instead of collection because it feels so much more appropriate. More on that in a minute. But I try to go through my library of tarot decks and I look for things that I'm not really reaching for or thinking about much. And I sort of put them up against things in my collection that I feel like I might reach for more or might enjoy more. And I try to figure out if I do need everything in that category, if I want to keep everything, if I want to declutter one of those things. And often I pair one deck against another deck, but as you'll see in today's video, sometimes I pair a whole chunk of decks together. And a fun thing I like to do with this series is I like to poll the people here, you guys who are watching my channel. So if you are subscribed to the channel, you should get notifications for my polls when I'm doing this series. And what I do is I poll you guys, if you had that same selection of decks and you could only keep one, which one would you keep? And it's always interesting to me to see sort of what the majority thinks about what deck they would prefer. And it's just for fun. I still make my own decisions. It's just interesting. In fact, I'm pretty sure today we're going to be going off the main line of thinking in several places. But it's really an exercise for me in making sure that I don't have so many things that I can't enjoy the things that I have. And it's a very nebulous thing for me to try to wrap my brain around, to try to figure out how much is too much. If I've got things that are sort of competing in my mind for the same sort of job in my sort of repertoire of things that I like to use. Do I have redundancies in my library of decks? Do I have things where I only reach for one and ignore the others and that sort of thing? So that's kind of what I do here. If you enjoy content about tarot, if you enjoy hearing about new decks, I do lots of stuff around that. And if you enjoy being mindful about the things that you do have so that you use and can enjoy the things that you have more, can you kind of look for ways to enjoy and love and appreciate what you do have more, then stick around because I make a lot of content around those sorts of things. So without further ado, we're going to jump into our very first pairing. So the first pairing today is a Lenormand pairing. So it's not tarot, it's not oracle, it's Lenormand, which is its own divination system. And I have here the Gilded Reverie Lenormand next to the House of Shadows Lenormand by Monica, Badursky. So House of Shadows and Gilded Reverie. So before I get into my thoughts, let me just pop up the poll. So at the time I'm filming with 406 votes, the majority of you would keep the House of Shadows Lenormand and you would declutter the Gilded Reverie Lenormand. And let's just take a look at some viewer comments. Lost in Gothic Music says, I'm not a fan of monochromatic decks, so Gilded Reverie it is, despite not being a Ciro Marchetti fan either. Tough choices. Julia Ambata says, those two are so different. Can't wait for your video to hear why you have them in the same basket. Well, let me talk about that. So I was simply going through and thinking about the Lenormand decks I don't often think to reach for, and both of these came to mind. So I'm in a sticky position here because I'm honestly not sure if I need either of them. Now, Lenormand is a category of decks that's very unique. Unlike tarot, where the different imagery really kind of sparks my intuition and I use the imagery to come up with different meanings, when it comes to Lenormand, the way that I learned and the way that I use it is a heart is a heart is a heart, a moon is a moon is a moon, birds are birds are birds. It doesn't really matter what they look like. And this deck was actually the deck that I learned on, and it's really beautiful. I'm looking at it right now. That's making it a little hard for me. This is really pretty. Okay, so the trick I have, the reason these are together is because I haven't been thinking about either much. This is the deck I learned on, so it has some nostalgia for me for sure. It's very well worn. My concern with this, oh, it's so pretty. It's so vibrant. I mean, Ciro, it's so pretty. Okay, let me just not look at it for a second. Okay, House of Shadows, to me, feels very specific to sort of the darker season. This is really cute, but it does have some extra cards. It is monochromatic. Now, this is by the same creator as the Shadowland Tarot, which was a deck that I quite enjoyed doing a walkthrough of and working with for a short time, but eventually did trade a long time ago. I love that there's an Ancestors card. Okay, so the funny thing is, when I pulled these out, I was like, Oh, sorry, why I put them in the same category. Did I answer that? Yes, I think I did. Basically I wasn't reaching for either, and I wanted to see if I needed either in my collection. So I wasn't putting them against each other, but to me, all of Lenormand could be paired against, any Lenormand could be paired against any other in this because they all do the same exact job for me. I don't really use Lenormand seasonally, so I don't feel like I need a seasonally appropriate deck. It is so cool that this deck has like a Mandrake card, for example. And actually, I wrote down, because you could find it online, the keyword. So the keyword for the Mandrake card was magic. This is so fun. I really like this. But in truth, I don't think I need it. And black and white decks have never been a real weak spot for me. I will say this is very cleverly done, but I think probably, gosh, I don't know. I keep waffling while I'm recording this. I think for now, and this one I think is all nostalgia for me. As beautiful as it is, it's quite large. Like, I actually prefer my Lenormand decks to be closer to this size. So this is probably like this is more like a pocket size, I guess. I don't know what you would say, but this is like a poker size, maybe even bigger than poker. It feels quite chunky to me. It is so pretty, and it is the deck I learned on. And I do love this path card. I really don't know what to do, but I'm not reaching for it. Okay, you know what I think I'm going to do? This is one of my larger Lenormand, and again, it's got some nostalgia because it is the one I learned on. I think for now, I am going to hold on to, I did not think this was going to go this way. I think I'm going to hold on to Gilded Reverie. And I think I am going to let House of Shadows Lenormand go. Now, this is the point in the video in which I give the disclaimer I try to remember to give in all of my this or that videos, which is that I'm not selling these right this minute. I'm not trading these right this minute. I typically will put any decks that I decide to declutter away in a drawer for a while to make sure that I'm not being rash. And when I feel ready, I will check with friends, or I may put these up in my Tarot Trade Tuesday event in my Facebook group, Supportive Tarot. You can find a link to that down below. We just do tarot trade events in there. Sometimes I'll list my decks or some of my decks, but I'm not in a hurry. And it honestly gets overwhelming if I get a lot of reach outs after these videos. So I try to remember to mention this in every single one. But if you're curious about anything I'm getting rid of, sit tight. Maybe if you're in my Facebook group, keep an eye out in case I list it in Tarot Trade Tuesday, but I am not seeking reach outs about these decks at this moment. So thanks for understanding. It just keeps things a little bit more manageable for me. But anyways, I also like to not be in a hurry. That's basically the big thing, is I like to not rush. I like to make sure. And so I know it can be annoying if you're waiting for a deck that I might be getting rid of, but I don't always know right away. So that's my long-winded way to say, we'll see. But for right now, I think this is going in the declutter pile. Gosh, do I really? Will I use this again though? It's so dang pretty. Yeah, okay, I'm keeping it for now. I can't. I don't feel like I'm ready. I feel like it's like my first ever Lenormand deck, and maybe that's the reason I keep it for now, and that's okay. All right, so in the keep pile, that's the first one. Whew, I feel like that was kind of painful. This is how this is going to go. We're going to be here for a while. I hope you have snacks. Okay, so here's another kind of thematic one. I have two Oracle decks. I have the Halloween Oracle, and I have the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. So let me get these out of their bags so we know what we're looking at here. Boom. Let me put up the poll. So with 658 votes as of the moment I'm filming this, the votes may change by the time I get screenshots up on the screen. So if it doesn't match, that's why. But as of right this second, there are 658 votes. 67% of you would keep the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle, and only 33% would keep the Halloween Oracle. Let's take a look at comments. So Ashley Tomowski says, I don't think I could get rid of either of them because I tend to use both throughout the year. This would be an agonizing choice for me. That is fair. I'll talk more about how I use them shortly. And Dolores Audley says Samhain Oracle. That's this one. Halloween Oracle is good, but the repetitive skull cards drive me crazy. Also, no broom, no bat, or Raven Crow cards was a major disappointment. Okay, let me talk about why I have these together. So these are both seasonal decks for me. I do not reach for either except at the Samhain season. They just both feel like that to me. I'm not the kind of person that will pull these decks out in like another season. It's like coloring outside the lines for me. It just does not work. Now, I happen to really love and get on well with the Samhain Oracle. It feels really magical. It feels witchy in all the right kind of ways. Now, I love the Samhain season, but to me, it very much is the Samhain season. I don't really think of it, I might call it the Halloween season, but you know, while I enjoyed Halloween and dressing up and all that kind of stuff when I was younger, and I do enjoy sometimes the occasion to do it as an adult, it's really been more about magic and like the witch's new year and reconnecting to my spirituality and to spirit for me. And so this feels more in alignment with what I think of as a Samhain sort of seasonal deck. And because I have this, I find myself wanting to use it through as far as my pairing, my oracle alongside other decks throughout sort of October. This one, as charming as it is, it has all the fun Halloween vibes. I just felt like it's just hanging there, and I don't feel any desire to work with it. And I have to admit, I completely agree with Dolores Audley. I find it so annoying that all the skulls in this deck are identical. They're like copy and pasted, like they're exactly the same. They have the same hole in the same spot. The same pieces of the nose bridge are. It really bothers me. And there's a lot of skulls. So there was 2 right there that were copied. And then you'll see. Now I'm not going to be able to get to any of them. Same skull with just some designs on it here. It's beautiful, this deck by Stacey DeMarco, and trimmed like I have it. I think it's extra beautiful. There's the other skull, Skull of Light. There's the other skull. There's the other skull. There's even some of that skull here. It's the same one built into this moon. It's just, at least it seems to be. It's too many skulls. It's not that I even have a problem with skulls, if they were all different skulls, but it just felt, once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. Now, I did trim mine. I think this was, it's actually a really nice even trim. I trimmed it in orange and black. This is super fun. I love the backings. It's super fun. It's all the Halloween kitsch that you could want. But I don't crave the Halloween kitsch at all during Halloween. I want this. I want the magic. I want the depth. I want the dark. But I don't necessarily want the kitsch. And I will be honest, it's not that the themes here are kitschy. In fact, they're quite wonderful, thematic, and beautiful. But I know I don't need this. So this is going to be going. I have to remember which pile is which so I don't mix them up. That's in the going pile. And I'll definitely be keeping my Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. I love the decks in this series, and I know that I will continue to want to reach for this, at least for the time being, every Samhain season. Oh boy, this next one's going to get me in so much trouble, y'all. The Witch's Wisdom Tarot and the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. Oh boy, let me just put the poll up. And we'll see. So at the time of filming, with 645 votes, 55% of you would keep Witch's Wisdom, and the other 45% of you would keep Dreams of Gaia Tarot. Let's take a look at the comments. So Kay Hahn says, Witch's Wisdom, and I'd write the traditional numbering on the majors so I'd find my way around faster. It has been on and off my wish list several times. I love the pictures of the Dreams of Gaia too, but somehow when I watch a full flip through, it never makes it on my wish list. I think it's because I don't really get that one structure. That's fair. Candy, Soul, and Soil. No, 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 no. They are both incredible, both so different. One will connect you right to the earth. One will heal and soothe and let you play with tarot and the dreamscape. Both must be kept. There is no other option. The poll is incorrect. Where is keep both? Duh. Poor Candy. I'm so sorry. So let me tell you why I put these together and what's going on with me where this is concerned. Because you guys have heard me, if you've been watching my channel for a long time, I mean, look how much wear this poor deck has. It saw a lot of use for me. The Dreams of Gaia Tarot. Let me show you some of the cards. This is the one that I know Candy's talking about, connects to Dreamscape. It's really wonderful for that. The thing about the Dreams of Gaia Tarot, so these both have changed the tarot structure a bit. I will say the Dreams of Gaia has changed it quite a bit more. The courts are different and the majors are different, and the majors have extra steps, and all of it makes so much sense, and it really is a wonderful deck for addressing healing. Particularly, there's a heavy psychological bent to this deck, and the full-size guidebook, which I featured in my top 10 guidebooks video, and I stand by that. The guidebook is absolutely incredible for helping you. You can tell how long I've had it, you guys, because I used to do this to all my tarot guidebooks. My dog or cat at whatever time chewed on this. I had a cat when I first had this deck. I think, no, it would have been it might have been my bird. My bird might have chewed on this. Anyways, point is, I've had this, I used to do this thing where I color coded the edge of my guidebooks because I thought I would have all my decks forever, which is, I now know better. But in any case, this guidebook is such a treasure. I still have my Dreams of Gaia bookmark in it, actually. But what this is full of is it feels like a lot of psychology. It's kind of like therapy in a deck in a way. That's probably not fair to say it that way. I mean that in a very sort of colloquial, tongue-in-cheek kind of way. But it addresses major familial archetypes. It talks to the different stages of growing up. There's like a youth and a teen and an adult and an elder of both kind of gender sort of representations. Like there's like a son, a father, an elder. There's like, so you got a lot of that like life stages energy. there's a lot of really great stuff here, and it really held my hand through a lot of personal growth work. When I was deciding whether, what I needed to sort of look at maybe decluttering, the reason this one came top of mind is because I don't reach for it and haven't for a very long time. And in fact, this full-size version of the deck, the original copy I used a lot in the beginning, I've had this in storage in its box for a very long time because I also got, I was actually gifted the little pocket Dreams of Gaia, and this was such a treasure to receive. I love the cardstock. This was I think my very first feeling of the cardstock that would become Blue Angel's new cardstock. This one's actually a little bit bendier because it's quite a chunky little deck than the cardstock of their oracles, but it's just a lovely, luscious little cardstock, this little pocket. And I was like, okay, I'll use it more in this pocket version. It's beautiful, it's matte, it's borderless, but because the system is so unique, I never memorized the system. I was reliant on the guidebook, and the guidebook, again, a treasure, right? Even this little one is really wonderful. It has these like little bits that were taken from the bigger guidebook that are really helpful. But I have not thought about or wanted to reach for this in ages and ages and ages. And so I asked myself, what job did this do for me in my collection? What was it? My library. I'm trying to retrain myself. What job did this do in my library? I would reach for this deck for personal growth and for healing. Well, for starters, when I got this deck, I was in need of a lot of that. And it's been really neat to kind of outgrow it in a way. It's very telling of where I'm at in my life, and where I'm at with my relating to others and my sense of personal power is a lot stronger now than it was when I first got this deck. And that's great. That's good. It means that I don't need it in that way anymore. But I asked myself, well, okay, when it comes to sort of personal growth and kind of healing, what am I likely to reach for instead? And I realized that the Witch's Wisdom Tarot sort of does that job for me now, but it comes at the subject differently. Whereas the Dreams of Gaia, I felt like, helped me to look into the dark corners of my psyche and sort of unpack things. I feel like the Witch's Wisdom is designed to literally help me unpack things. I don't know if that makes any sense. The Dreams of Gaia felt like it was more about, maybe this is a better way to put it. The Dreams of Gaia felt like it was about helping me to identify, so observe, and to to observe and to sort of integrate or own the things that I needed to look at and work on. With Witch's Wisdom, I feel like it sort of meets me where I actually am right now in my life. Like, it's like, this is where you are. This is all the stuff you've acquired in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit over your lifetime. Let's be honest about that. Let's look at what you're carrying, and let's slowly begin, because this is what the reverse major arcana does in this deck for me. It helps me to slowly realize how I am actually not moving towards carrying more and more. I'm moving towards unpacking my backpack, getting free so that I can continue to move forward in my life. This deck feels like it speaks the speak of somebody in my age range, somebody who's lived a lot of life and is moving into a place of, it's hard to describe. I feel like, you spend the first chunk of your life sort of building towards something, like acquiring knowledge and growth and all that kind of thing. And then I feel like you reach a point where you're kind of saturated in a way, and you're starting to slowly peel off layers again. And that's kind of where I feel like I am now. And so in a way, I feel like my life stage has kind of moved from Dreams of Gaia to Witch's Wisdom, in a weird kind of way. I don't know if that's going to make sense to anybody but me, but what I realized is that I'm basically reaching for this deck in the same way that I was reaching for Dreams of Gaia. But the words in this guidebook, which is also incredible, and I think this was also in my top 10 guidebooks, this just really meets me right where I am. And Phyllis Curot's writing speaks straight to my soul. Like, I just feel like there's so much there around how I feel when I think of witch as an identity, and like how I might identify with that term and what it means for me personally. I feel like Phyllis kind of hits the nail on the head with that. So this feels like it connects. And this feels more real, tangible with my practice. Whereas, to Candy's point, Dreams of Gaia does feel a little bit more dreamy, a little bit more, it feels very much in the head, in the energy body, in the head and in the energy body. Whereas Witch's Wisdom feels like it's in my body and in my real life. And so this is just not something that I feel like I need anymore. And so I think it's served its purpose. It's done its job for me. And I feel like that's a lot of words about this combo. But I feel really strongly about it because this was the one that was really tough for me. Because, of course, Dreams of Gaia I've really, truly loved. But I think my decision is that Witch's Wisdom, I know my decision is that Witch's Wisdom is staying. I gotta make sure I don't put the books here. It's gonna make a big pile. Witch's Wisdom is staying, and Dreams of Gaia is going. The next is a group of 3, and we're looking at the Land Sky Oracle by Teresa Hutch, the Whispers of Lord Ganesh Oracle by, oh, I'm not going to remember, Angela Hartfield. I had to cheat and look at the guidebook. And the Seeds of Shakti, little oracle deck by Sharon Basanti. So let me pop up the poll. So as of today, when I'm filming this, would keep the Land Sky Oracle, 32% Whispers of Lord Ganesh, and 20% Seeds of Shakti. Kiva says, very hard choice between the Land Sky Oracle and Whispers of Lord Ganesh. They're both beautiful, but I went with Whispers of Lord Ganesh, though personally I'd keep both. Elf says, as much as I love the colors on Seeds of Shakti, I have a thing for elephants. They are one of my favorite animals. Then again, I relate to animals a lot better than people anyway. That's fair. There are a lot of beautiful elephants in this deck. Okay, let me talk about it. So these all carry a very similar energy to me. They all feel like a kind of deck that if I were to unroll my yoga mat to do a practice, any of these 3 decks would help me connect to that part of myself. And that's where I'm struggling a little bit. I have actually used these 2 with my yoga practice. This one, not. But this one was one that I only finally got my hands on much more recently than these 2. And this was one that I'd wanted for a long, long time. So let me sort of talk through these 3. This is going to be hard for me, I think. I've had the Whispers of Lord Ganesh for a long time. This was another deck that I feel like, as beautiful as it is, and I love that there are chakra cards, I don't feel it's really quite beautiful. It really is. And I do love the chakra cards. There is like a dent. You can see my ring light. There's like a dent in the card. I don't know how that got there. That's interesting. I never reach for it. I never reach for it. It is really beautiful. I do like the keywords. I really love the artwork. It's gorgeous. I'm curious. I think this one is available now in Blue Angel's matte cardstock. There is a card in here that always makes me want to cry whenever I see it. Where is it? I love this acceptance card quite a bit. Quite a bit. I love the focus on the belly at the center of the image. Delight. Revelation. Gosh, it's so pretty. It's like I really appreciate how beautiful it is. I just never... Childlike expression, innocence, steadfastness, guidance, enlightenment. Gosh, this is so pretty. I don't know. Capacity to love. I have to think about this. There it is. That's the one that always makes me want to cry. Understanding. Just looking into that eye. It's so pretty. So, I don't know. I really thought I knew kind of going into this, but now I suddenly don't know. So let me think about that for a second. So this one, it's got a lot of beautiful themes. Land Sky Oracle is also really, really gorgeous. I got this partly because I love the White Sage Tarot by the same creator so much. This is also really beautiful, and I feel like it also connects to that same kind of energy. I love that there are these concepts like pratyahara, but then you have a keyword underneath. So you're not reliant on needing to know what that is. Turning inward. Life's purpose, dharma, yama, honor others, avidya, spiritual ignorance. You can really dive deep into these topics, and the artwork is just gorgeous. And then there's some here that are representing specific yoga poses or crystals. It's a really beautiful system. And I really love this cardstock. There's Ganesha for love. And Papez. I'm not as fond of these colors. These cards. They're just a little bit samey to me. The animal ones and the crystal ones. I love the animal ones. Look at a stay in non-stealing. We have a raccoon. It's so pretty. And this one also has a really, really wonderful guidebook. And it also has like a card here for the 8 limbs of yoga. There's a beautiful Yama poster that opens up. This is a really pretty set. But I feel like it's one of those things that's just sitting on my shelf being pretty and not necessarily serving me. So I think I'm going to let this one go. So I'm going to put it in the to-go pile. Where I'm really going to be struggling, I think, is with these 2. So Seeds of Shakti. Let me just take a look. I really love the colors. I like the messages. Shall express the soul's authentic vibration. Cow, nourish the body with wholeness from the earth. Buddha. Chai, a sacred pause with kindred spirits. Svadhisthana. Tiger. On the other side of fear is courage. Lotus. Out of the murky waters, the soul rises and unfolds. I mean, these are just beautiful. Hanuman, Shakti, Ganesha, Mala. I don't know what I'm thinking right now. I'm really struggling because when I paired these, I really thought this was the one that I was going to keep and I was going to declutter the others. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about the themes present in the Whispers of Lord Ganesh and thinking about the expansive keywords and the artwork. And then I'm looking at this, and as delightful as this is, it feels actually... does it feel more limiting? I feel like I'm just looking and I don't know. Okay, as I sat here waffling, my camera cut me off. So I don't know what I was saying and when it cut me off, but I'm looking at this and I'm actually feeling, interestingly, like the Seeds of Shakti is actually more limiting for me than the Whispers of Lord Ganesh, which I was not expecting, actually. I haven't been reaching for this, and I feel like that's a darn shame, and I feel like maybe I will reach for it more, having taken this tour. And I think Seeds of Shakti is feeling a little bit limiting right this minute, and I think for now, I think I might want to actually, okay, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I think I'm actually going to, this was a deck I coveted for so long, and I think that's why I'm struggling the way that I am. But I feel like I flip through these cards and I immediately see how I can use them and how expansive the keywords are and how wonderful the artwork is for helping me jump off into various themes. I think the reason I don't think about this as often is because it feels like it's so specific to Ganesh, and yet the energy of this deck is so open and accepting and warm and inviting. And this one feels a little more limiting somehow. So I think I'm going to put this into purgatory. I definitely am not rehoming this right now. I think I need to put it away and see if I miss it after a while. And if I don't miss it, maybe eventually it will find its way away, but I'm going to be putting it in purgatory for sure, because I'm wondering if I don't have this handy, if I'll think about this one more. And I think I might find that this one is infinitely more usable. This is not how I thought this was going to go. It always trips me out when I surprise myself during these videos, because I definitely often have an idea of where I think things are going. And it's interesting to me that this is the one that won. This was the one I thought was going to be the easiest to let go of. And that is definitely not the case. Look at this old edging job on it. It almost makes me wonder if I should go ahead and invest in the new copy of it in the matte cardstock, because that might be the thing that pushes me over the edge to using it more, because the gloss often puts me off. Yeah, that was unexpected. Okay, well, that's where we're at. So I'm keeping the Whispers of Lord Ganesh, and I'm definitely purgatorying the other two. Okay, next up is another divisive combo. There was lots of shock, and I promise I have an explanation. So I am looking at the Wyrd of Sarah Howard next to the Illuminated Tarot. So let me just pop up the poll. So at the time of filming, 63% of you would keep the Wyrd of Sarah Howard and Declutter Illuminated Tarot. 37% of you would keep the Illuminated Tarot. Let's take a peek at the comments. Tarot Geek says, I absolutely love my Wyrd of Sarah Howard. I would never consider getting rid of it. Don't get rid of it. I don't think I've ever seen it come up for sale. It's safe, don't worry. I'll explain. What came about for me is, so as I've mentioned, I kind of think about the decks that I have that I'm not using, and this was one of them. And I was like, okay, what kind of compares with this? What does the similar thing that this does? So let me talk about what this does. This is a really cool combination hybrid of playing cards and tarot, and it's awesome. The artwork is really beautiful. It's this really cool, heavy linen cardstock. It reminds me a little bit of the cardstock of the Affirmators Tarot, a little bit. It's a little bit more, it's not as bendy as that one is, but it's still quite nice. It shuffles beautifully. But it does this really cool thing where some of the cards have double meanings. So like this is, the Nine of Cups is just the Nine of Cups. But then you get to the Seven of Diamonds, which is the Seven of Pentacles, and it's also the Sun card. Or the, what's another good one here that I know? Some of them are obvious and some of them less so. So let's see. Okay, like the King of Hearts here, I think maybe also Temperance, question mark? Maybe not. I forget, but there's a few of them like that. Here. So we have, I believe this is the High Priestess, and it's also the Two of Diamonds or the Two of Pentacles. So there's a lot of that cool overlap. The guidebook to this is awesome. Here's the Six of Wands, but it's also the Tower, which is such an interesting combination. It's really interesting and fun, and I had a lot of fun reading with it when I first got it. I worked with it. It was fun, but I've never had any reason to think I would reach for it again. It feels a little bit odd to me in a cool way, like the Seven here of Spades. The Seven of Swords is also the Chariot, but some of the overlaps, they don't fully make sense to me. The guidebook is super fun and different. Like the guidebook, did I grab it? I didn't grab it, so I can't show it, but the guidebook really gives you just like a few pops of keywords for it. So when I was thinking, okay, will I miss this if I get rid of it, I was like realizing, heck no, I'm not gonna miss this when I get rid of it because I have the Wyrd of Sarah Howard, which is also, now the Wyrd of Sarah Howard is an oracle deck. But it is an oracle deck that is based on, it has playing card. It's 52, so it's a playing card deck, basically. But it has a keyword and artwork, and it has this really cool overlap with tarot. So, for example, in the Three of Cups, we have dancers, or sorry, Three of Hearts, which is dancers. There is some crossover here to the Three of Cups, right? So you can see it if you look for it. The Four of Diamonds, the Four of Pentacles here is procrastination, right? So you can see the crossover between tarot and playing cards, or tarot and this oracle, I should say. And this oracle has got the same suits as playing cards, which is super fun. So this was a unicorn deck for me for a very, 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 very long time, and I was so blessed to be able to get my hands on it recently. And this would never leave me, so don't worry, this has been safe. This was safe the whole time. But it was the closest yardstick, I guess, I had for measuring whether or not I would ever reach for the Illuminated Tarot. And the answer to that question is no, I don't think I will. So I will be, of course, keeping my Wyrd of Sarah Howard, but this is just how I was able to determine, do I need this or not? And I think the answer to that is not. I don't think I do. If I'm feeling that need to play with something that's got that tarot playing card mashup, I can definitely do that here with this oracle deck. So Wyrd of Sarah Howard stays, and the Illuminated Tarot will be leaving me. Okay, next up we have some astrology fun times things happening. So I have the Heavenly Bodies oracle deck here against the Oracle of the Radiant Sun here. So let me pop up the poll. So at the time of filming, 52% of you, this was very close, 52% of you voted in favor of the Heavenly Bodies astrology deck, and 48% of you in favor of the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. So I have to highlight this comment by Wesley of 22 Zines. So Wesley says, I love Radiant Sun because it's like an actual astrology-based oracle rather than an astrology learning tool. I love pulling a card for each planet from Radiant Sun and using that as like advice from the planets reading, i.e., or e.g. rather, what does Mars say about how I should stand up for myself? What does Venus say about how I should love myself? Now, I thought this was the coolest thing, and Wesley didn't stop there. No. He went on and made a video on his channel going into all of the reasons, basically praising the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. And I have to admit, I watched that video, and by the time I was done, I was like, what was I thinking? It was a really, really well done video. But let me talk about why I put these up and talk a little bit more about why I don't want to be saturated in this space specifically. So I will say, so the Heavenly Bodies Oracle feels more like a tool than an oracle deck. I really don't see myself using this deck to do readings, right? I feel like it's the kind of deck where I enjoy looking through it and laying things out. And I'm going to talk about how I've used this recently, actually, in my show and tell at the end of June, because I did some really cool stuff with it that was really neat, and I really enjoy it. I love the way that the deck is arranged. I love the keywords on the bottom of every single card, from houses, planets, signs, aspects, elements. Everything has keywords, which lets you really, I think, use this as a learning tool in a really unique way. The keywords are also simple. They're easy to spot with your eyes. You know what I mean? Easy to absorb, maybe is what I mean to say. Maybe you don't know what I mean. I don't know if I know what I mean. But it's really easy to lay out elements of your birth chart and immediately get a snapshot of what that energy might look like. And it just feels really versatile, and it's also beautiful, which I love. So I really, really love this. This one kind of blew astrology decks out of the water for me personally. It was like the first astrology deck that really excited me to pull it out and work with it for like my chart and stuff like that. So I knew this was safe. And I was like, ever since I got this, I haven't really even thought about the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. However, Wesley made a really interesting point. When I have used this, I have used it as an Oracle deck. I find that it's got really excellent keywords. Now, the thing that's interesting and really sets this deck apart from other astrology decks that I have seen and played with is that instead of each card being a planet, a sign, a house, etc., this deck is based on, as Wesley points out so effectively in his video, it's based on traditional astrology. And so you get energies, combined energies. So here we have Venus in Cancer, and the keyword is birth. And so each card for each of the 7 traditional planets, you get each of the signs in each of the 7 traditional planets. So you get these combined energies. What is Saturn in Capricorn? I had to think about that for a second. What is Saturn in Sagittarius? What is Venus in Capricorn? What does the sun in Pisces look like? What does the sun in Sagittarius look like? Etc., etc. And so you have Jupiter in Taurus. You have all of these combined energies, and it just, okay, let's just put it this way. I'm going to put a link down below, and I'll try to remember to also put it up in the cards to the video by 22 Zines, talking about all the different ways that he likes to use this deck. I think it's an incredible video. It has definitely talked me out of even considering letting this go. I have found it's a very effective Oracle deck. So if I take it out of that astrology box, I definitely want to give this some more time and play with it some more. Especially I find, I don't know why I didn't pull it out to look at it again ever since I started studying astrology more, because it means more to me now. I feel like I read it easier now. So yeah, I feel like this would also pair beautifully next to decks like the Thoth deck, where there's a lot of astrology influences. I think that could be really, really cool. And in fact, I think it was Dawn Michelle Bohotero who first told me that she was doing that. She was pairing this, I think, with some of the Thoth cards, just seeing how the energy shows up. So this is staying. And so is the Heavenly Bodies Astrology deck. But I really, really don't want to be saturated in the space of astrology-based decks, because I do feel like there's still some inherent limitations with them, at least this type. And so I realized I had one other deck in my collection that I really wanted to pull back out and look at. My library, you guys. I'm going to try to remember my library. This is the second time I've had this deck. So the creator sent me a new copy of the Astra Soul. This is the newest version. Because I had given some feedback in my walkthrough, I think, of this deck, which they then integrated. So then they sent me the newest copy, which was super sweet of them. And I got a chance to play with it. I did use it some, and I do really like it. But it does still, for me, fit the same space as Heavenly Bodies. And in fact, when I was using Heavenly Bodies to do a project, I found that it was easier to use for the project I had it for than this, just because all the reflection, as much as this is beautiful, the reflection made it hard. I was doing some photography stuff, and the reflection made it a little tricky to read the keywords. And I do still wish that there were keywords on every card, but there aren't. There are keywords on the aspects. There are keywords on the moons, the planets, but there are not keywords on the signs, which is, again, it's okay. It's still a very, very, very well thought out deck. And the book is excellent. It's really quite good, especially if you're just getting your feet wet with astrology. This is a great learning deck. But I don't need both, is really where I keep landing. So I'm going to let the Astra Soul, it wasn't even on my poll originally, but I am going to let the Astra Soul Oracle deck go for the second time, unfortunately, in favor of just working with the Heavenly Bodies when I need an astrology tool deck. So that's what I'm doing there, but these are both staying. So there's that. Okay, next up we have the Forest of Enchantment Tarot versus the Inner Child cards. Let me just pop up the poll. So at the time of filming, a whopping 87% of you would keep the Forest of Enchantment, and only a mere 13% of you would keep the Inner Child cards. Let me peek at the comments. I wonder if they're spicy. Quaint Quill says, whether you call it the Enchanted Forest or the Forest of Enchantment or some combination, that's the one. So what I've done here, similarly to some of the other combinations we've seen today, I do not reach for the Inner Child cards. I had this deck way back, way, way, way back. And I decluttered it way, way, way back. Like, we're talking, like, I think I decluttered it in like 2009 or something like that, 2008, 2009. I had this way back in the early 2000s. It was really wonderful when I was first trying to figure out what an inner child was and was doing work with that. And this deck was really wonderful for for two specific reasons. It's fairy tale themed. The artwork is very childlike and bright and colorful. It's got these lovely fairy tale themes. You do see several fairy tales and stories throughout the cards, but the thing that really attracted me to this deck was the size. As you can see, this is a traditional tarot card, and the size, there's something about holding a deck, and I know this had to have been intentional on the part of the creators, but these big cards make you feel small. They make you feel little. And so there's an idea there of helping you connect to the inner child, and that was really valuable to me for a time. That was something that was actually really important in helping me get into the space where I could really explore that energy. And so this can be really great. I don't think there's anything wrong with this deck, but I had reacquired it. But ever since I reacquired it, which I have to be honest, I really did more for nostalgia than anything, I felt zero desire to actually work with this deck. And the copy that I received had come in water damage. So a lot of these cards are just really in poor condition. It doesn't show on camera very well, but there's a lot of, like, just, I don't know if you can tell just how, oh, there's my ring light. It's really hard to tell because they're so glossy, but there's a lot of, like, wrinkles. Some of them have outright tears on them. Like, they're in bad shape, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is, but it's just, that's not the reason I don't reach for them. Like, they're still, as you can tell, perfectly, you can still work with them if you wanted to. I just haven't wanted to. And so the only thing remaining, I don't feel like I need this big card experience to connect to my inner child anymore. And so the only other thing left is the artwork and the style. And these are very fairy tale. But there's also these, like, kind of angels in them. And there's some, like, Christmassy themes in here. And it's a little disjointed for me. When I want to get into fairy tale energy, I really love, especially more of that storybook feeling, I just love the Forest of Enchantment. It's just got some real magic to it. And, you know, as mentioned, it's got some beautiful age diversity. We've got that sort of wizened Five of Challenges here. Like, I really, really enjoy it. There's just some really delightful energy here. I love this deck. So it's really no competition for me either. I think a lot of this is just me giving myself permission to let it go for the second time, knowing that I'm probably not going to bother getting it back again. So, but that is where I've landed with this. The inner child cards, it's just time. It's time for them to go. They're not something that I use. They're just something that I kind of collected, and I really truly try not to collect. I want to use what I have. Like I said, that's why I'm trying to train myself to call it a library, because I love that term. I think it's so perfect. And credit to whoever came up with it. I'm really bad at remembering who that was. Apologies. It wasn't me. I did not coin it. But it works. Okay, the next combo, this one also got me into some trouble, is the Outgrow Yourself Oracle and Tarot. Let's just turn this around so you guys can see the backs. Versus the Sun and Moon Tarot by Vanessa DeCourt. Let's just do that. Let me pop up the poll. So at the time of filming, 54% of you voted in favor of the Outgrow Yourself Oracle and Tarot, and 46% for the Sun and Moon Tarot. So Ali Boo says, I'm curious, how did this combo make it for this and that video? I feel they're two very, very different decks, but I'm sure Lisa has something to say about this. Yes, she does. So these fell into the category of, while I was studying the Thoth, and really dipping into the system, I went down this bit of a rabbit hole. Peggy, in fact, called me on it in my last Say Yes to the Deck, of like, well, now that I'm studying Thoth, I want some Thoth decks, you know, I want some Thoth-themed decks. And I had previously rehomed a very badly trimmed copy of the Sun and Moon Tarot. Well, I shouldn't say badly. It was a nice trim, but it was hand-done, and I don't hand-do them anymore. And I was like, yeah, you know, it's Thoth, and now that I'm studying Thoth, I bet I want this back, you know, of course I do. So I picked it up. And as much as I love this artwork, and I was like, yeah, this is such a great Thoth deck. It's not. I mean, it is, but it's also not. Because the thing, for me, this is very personal, because the thing is, what I came to love about the Thoth when I was studying it was how rich the symbolism was, and how there was these astrological glyphs all over the artwork. And so I came to really strongly associate the astrology with the deck. And to my chagrin, did I just use that word in a sentence? Yes, I did. Do I feel fancy? Yes, I do. To my chagrin, you can't really see the astrology as easily or readily in this deck. Like here you can. You see the little Pisces fish there. But in a lot of the cards you don't. And you don't at all through the minors, which was so disappointing to me. I don't know if I certainly didn't notice that when I had it the first time, because I didn't really even think about the astrology with the tarot and the Thoth. It's a very minimalist style deck, but the symbology is very smart. Everything's on the card for a reason. It is a beautiful deck. It doesn't feel like a Rider-Waite-Smith to me, and it also doesn't feel Thothy enough. That word always will sound funny to me. So the Sun and Moon Tarot was one that I had rehomed, reacquired, and well, now it's going to go again. That's basically the punchline. That's what's happening. There's really no debate here. I knew this was probably going to be going. I knew. I was like, I shouldn't have reacquired it, but I did. You know, we all make mistakes. I got excited about Thoth. So yeah, this one's going to be going. Look at me ejecting it from its bag already. And I already knew this. I think I even mentioned in a video that this was going to be going. So I knew this one was going. But, yeah. The reason I compared these two is because this is also a Thoth-based deck. But it adds something to my... Even though this also does not have the astrology readily available on all of the cards, it adds something to my library of decks. It adds a completely different energy. It adds this really cool Oracle Tarot hybrid. And in spite of all of that, you can still find the astrology in these cards. Like here we have Mars in Leo for the Valor card. And I was like, okay, now I don't know if it's in every single one, but I don't need it to be because we have these beautiful messages. So it does something different. While yes, it is a fun Thothy deck that I got while I was studying the Thoth and I was all in the throes of the Thoth is awesome. I got this, but I don't regret this purchase because I feel like, again, I feel like it adds something really cool to my library. Again, I'm trying to train myself. Thanks for bearing with me while I do that. But it adds something. It adds something really unique and special. And I can pull this out and use it like an empowering oracle deck and still see the shades of the Thoth, or I can use it like a tarot deck. And I love that about this. I love how intuitive and raw and wild it is, and it adds something. So in spite of the fact that yes, I got it for a very similar reason as I got the Sun and Moon, it's very, very usable. And I don't have to look at it as just like a random Thoth clone in my library of decks. I can look at it as its own thing. And that gives it value aside from its Thothiness. So there's that. So the Outgrow Yourself is staying, and the Sun and Moon Tarot is going. Okay, this next one was a $5. It was a $5, so just bear with me. What I have in this list is I have to take these out of the bag because these are actually living in the same bag. I have my RWS Centennial. I have my DeBrig Original Tarot. I have my Reflective Tarot. My Smith-Waite Centennial in a tin, and my Morgan Greer. Is that 5? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is like one of these things is not like the other, but we'll talk about that. Okay, so let me pop up the poll and see which one you guys would have picked. So at the time of filming, the massive winner is the RWS Centennial full size. So if you could only keep one of these 5 decks, this is the one that got the most votes, the RWS Centennial full size. Next to that, 28% of you voted for the Morgan Greer Tarot in a tin, and then it went down from there. So let me take a look at the comments. I'm just super curious. So Georgina Taylor says, I would keep 2, the DeBrig Original Tarot and the Morgan Greer. Don't like the reflective style, and the RWS has more crude images, no clean images like a copy after too many faxes or reprints. I voted for the former of the 2 I liked the best. Okay, great feedback. So let me tell you guys what happened here. So I don't read with these decks. I don't. Now, that could change someday. Maybe someday I'm going to be like, yes, I'm going to read with the Rider-Waite-Smith. Now, okay, let me address that one of these is not like the other. The Morgan Greer is a really fun RWS alternative to me, but it still feels, it's not. I mean, it's no, it just... I do think it's cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's cool. I think the cardstock's awesome. It's super fun to shuffle. But I don't sit and think to myself, gosh, I really want to read with the Morgan Greer today. I just don't. Do I like this a little bit better in some ways than a standard RWS? Yes, I do. There's things about this that I think, just make it neater, more cool, more fun than like I love how it's kind of close up in spots. I like it. I do. But this is not a deck I reach for that I'm ever excited to reach for, and it's also not a deck that works for me for study because it does deviate from the traditional RWS imagery. So that kind of ousts it from my collection. I feel like I got it because it was in a tin and I wanted to try, and I do like it, but I never read with it. So that one's gonna go. Here's where we're gonna get a little bit more tough. I want to keep one travel version of a RWS for when I go to conferences or when I want a study deck, and I want to keep one full size. So here is my thinking right this second. So I got the original, DeBrig original in a trade, and what I really like about it, are these both in order? No, they're not. Okay, so let me just see if I can find the Fool and at least compare those cards. I really like the coloring on the Centennial because it feels kind of fun and aged, but it still has color. Like the yellows are a little toned down from the original. Can I find the Fool? Did I already pass the Fool? I'm just being kind of... Okay, hold on. There it is. Okay. So let's just take a look at these. So this feels crisper. The lines feel crisper. The colors feel more solid. There are some subtle changes, which I just am now noticing. Like here, the boots are kind of green, but here they were yellow. The dog is a crisp white. But this is also a linen cardstock. I just feel like it's really easy to see the lines. So for both a study deck, it's very crisp, this deck. It feels crisp. I don't know how else to describe it. And also it's linen. So I feel like if I were ever going to read, like with a full-size Rider-Waite Smith, look at how clean that feels. It just feels very clean. I don't know how else to describe it. And I think these lines were cleaned up. I feel like I can see everything on the card easily in this version. So I feel like if I was going to read with a Rider-Waite Smith tarot, this one is just, it's perfect. It's clean. I can see, I keep saying clean, I'm so sorry, but it's like I can see everything. And I actually kind of like the bolder colors. I've been looking at the Centennial for so long that I really like that, which is so funny to me because I used to think I hated all these yellows, but actually I kind of like that they're clean and crisp in this deck. So I really do like this version of the Rider-Waite Smith. So for a full size, if I was going to read with it, linen, yes, and crisp colors, easy to see, yes. So I think this one is the winner that way. So I'm going to let go of my Centennial full size. I'm going to have to find a bag for this because this matches the Centennial, but it doesn't match this. I do wish this had different backs, but I mean, these backs are fine. It's just, but I do like the fronts. Okay, so that takes care of my full size question. Now I have my portable question, and I have a bit of a conundrum. Historically, I've always used the Centennial for like my study deck or my portable whatever study deck. And I do have to admit, I really like the tin. But, and actually cardstock wise, this one is so much easier to shuffle. You can see how much chunkier this one is. But I do love, again, how shiny this one is. I don't love the font. I like that this has Pixie's original font on it. And I do love that sort of vintagey vibe. But I do love how shiny this is. But I don't like this typeface. I've only ever played with this deck. I really like that it's shiny and holographic. I want to see a major just to see. Is that font? Yeah, it's that font on the majors too. It doesn't go. It doesn't go. Let me be honest. It doesn't. I do like the bright colors. And I really thought this was going to be the portable one I was going to keep because it's so shiny. But it's actually kind of hard to shuffle. I was actually doing this the other day for some reason, just kind of testing the shuffle. This one it's almost impossible to shuffle. It hurts. And I've got really strong hands, but it's a really stiff cardstock. I used this a lot to play Queens of Fate and other Tarot Solitaire games because the shiny was so fun. And I raved about it. I did. The shiny is fun, but the shiny is not enough. And I think this is the one that's going to go. I didn't think that's how this was going to play out, but that is it. So I will be keeping the DeBrig full size. So I have that nice, beautiful, bright, crisp version in a full size. And I'll be keeping my little travel Smith-Waite Centennial because this is, again, perfect for, again, conferences, classes, things like that. And this is perfect for... I feel like this would just be, it's both great for holding up for like reference purposes because the lines are so crisp. It's good for study that way and for reference. But it feels, the cardstock feels lovely in the hand. And I actually got this through a really nice trade with Toadstool Tarot. It was a lovely little trade. So yeah, it just fell. That's the Four of Pentacles. I'm really happy with this decision actually. So I just need to find this, its good home. And maybe I will start reading with the Rider-Waite Smith. It's worth a try, right? I never have. I never really have. I shouldn't say never. I'm sure I have occasionally, but not enough to be memorable. I just love how easy it is to see all the details. Yeah, this is definitely a winner. So yeah. And I actually think I might at some point see about trading out, if I could find, maybe if you guys know, I'm not an RWS expert. If you guys know of a RWS version that has got Pixie's original font, is in a tin, but has bolder colors, question mark, I might consider. I really like that this one has like the kind of like, not borderless, but it doesn't have any text. It's just got the Roman numeral for the minors. I really like that style. So yeah, if there's a tinned version of a Rider-Waite-Smith that is brighter, maybe I'm just drawn to this brighter one now. I don't know. You guys, I don't know. I'm fickle. What can I say? But for now, I'll be keeping these two and rehoming these three. Well, eventually. They're going to go into purgatory. You know my drill. Okay. So the next one is the Angel Tarot by Radley Valentine. Looks like that. Get in the frame. There we go. And the Guardian Angel Tarot, also by Radley Valentine. This one is not out of print. This one is out of print. This was a Doreen Virtue Radley Valentine, I think, originally, and now is just Radley Valentine. Well, it was, and now is out of print. Let me pop up the poll. So 58% of you would keep the Guardian Angel Tarot, and 42% of you would keep the Angel Tarot. So Erin says, I would say bye-bye to both. Angels are by far one of the most difficult themes or energies for me to connect with. Is it the art style that seems so similar across angel decks? Being raised in the southern U.S., inextricable links to Abrahamic faiths? Not sure. I feel you. I completely understand. I have a real hard time with angel stuff too. I'm kind of worked my way through it to some degree or another. So here's the thing about these decks for me. So the Guardian Angel Tarot was a deck that I felt like I should, for all intents and purposes, I really should have hated. It's everything I didn't like. And yet there was something so gentle and comforting about it. And what I really like about this deck, if I'm being honest, I love my trim. It makes it so soft. I cut the gilding off. I replaced the edges that were gilded with these pastels. It was a trim inspired by, like an exact duplicate pretty much of a trim that Boho Tarot did. I love it. But I love how comforting this deck is when I just want a hug. It's like the first one I reach for because it's got these gentle messages on it. It makes me feel safe and held. It feels protective and loving, and it doesn't squick me out for some reason, even though so many angel things have in the past. But this one doesn't. I don't really use the guidebook. I do read it sometimes if I'm having a particularly tough time and I want more of a message than what I got off the card. But this sat by my bed for the longest time and was just a quick little bedtime draw. And I still love it for that. And if I'm going to read with it, it's going to be sitting on my bed right before sleep when I need a little comfort. So it just fits a really particular space. And I was asking myself, do I need this one? Because I'm just not using it. It's fun and it's fantasy and it's beautiful. What I love about the Angel Tarot by Radley Valentine, it's got that same thing going. It's a wonderful beginner deck. Oh my gosh, if you're trying to learn the tarot, this is really, really great because it helps you connect to the elemental energies. It has keywords right on it that are just really, really helpful. I think the thing that really sucked me in with this is that I love the way the suits are designed. So the water suit is all like mermaids. The fire suit is lots and lots of dragons. The majors are archangels, which, like, whatever. It's the minors I'm about with this deck. The earth suit is fairies. No, wait. Yeah? Is it fairies? Yeah, little fairies for the earth suit, like little fae folk. And then the air suit. Hello, can we get some air cards, please? Hello? Where are my air cards? Am I just, like, missing them? What's happening? Oh, there we go. Are unicorns. They're unicorns. But they're not the kind of, I mean, the art is beautiful. I really love it. I feel like if the art was bigger. But the unicorns are not necessarily, this is going to sound so snobby of me, but they're not, like, the right type of unicorn where I'm super attached to them. Gosh, did I just, like, fly through so many, like, I must have passed so many air cards. I feel like I can't get away from the majors. And the majors and the air cards have a very similar color border, which really annoys me. Okay, so, yeah, there's our air, queen of air. It's all unicorns, you know, but That's what I loved about it. That's what I thought was so cool. I did use it a bit. Again, I think it's an excellent beginner deck, at least because it's got the messages on it if you're wanting to learn. And you can get a separate big guidebook, which was actually really generously sent to me, that I did work with a little bit. It's called the Big Book of Angel Tarot. Again, if you're a beginner, get the big book if you feel like you want to dive more into the energy. And it's such an easy deck to just pull out and read with, but I can do that with any deck. I don't need one with keywords on it. And sometimes I get excited about the concept of that because I feel like, oh, that's so great for a lazy day. But for like a lazy day, I almost always will reach for this. Like if I just want a message and I don't want to think about it and I just want something comforting, this one fits the bill. So I don't need this one. So that one's going to go. My tower of decks is getting really precarious, you guys. And this one is going to stay. Okay, this next one is it's contentious. I'm sorry. It is. It is what it is. Okay, let's talk about it. So I have This Might Hurt Tarot. Nobody panic. It's going to be okay. This Might Hurt Tarot. Next to, in no particular order, the Luna Soul Tarot. This is another fiver, by the way. So we have Luna Soul. Can I fit them all on screen? We'll see. The Good Karma Tarot. Maybe I'll turn them upside down so you guys can see the backs easier. That's probably easier for the poll. Everyday Witch. We're going to put her down at the bottom here. And the Numinous Tarot. Okay, she's going to misbehave because she's very slidey. Okay, there we go. And the Numinous Tarot. Okay, let's pop up the poll. So 47% of you voted for This Might Hurt. You would keep this one. The next runner-up at only 18% was the Modern Witch Tarot, and it goes down from there. Let me take a look at the comments. So the reading room says, I think I'd have to go with the Numinous. It's the most unique and does the best job at representation out of all of those decks. I actually do agree with that, that it does an excellent job at representation. Let me find another comment. Michael Jonathan says, I've worked with all but the Luna Soul, and each of the other decks all have their own place in my collection, but if I had to pick one, it would be This Might Hurt. So here's the issue I'm having and why I decided to do this declutter in this area is because I love and use my This Might Hurt Tarot so much that it's really a challenge for me to think to use any of these other decks. That's really it at the bottom line. It's not any of these decks' fault. It's the fact that I bonded with this one first and it's the one that I feel I don't know what it is. There's something about the colors and the art style. The way that it feels so well-rounded and easy, and I love the colors and the gradients and the backgrounds. I mean, there's just, it's little things. It feels modern. It feels relatable. It doesn't do the absolute best job at representation, but it does a good job, and it's one that I am very, very well bonded to. Again, I feel like if I were going strictly on representation, which of these decks does it best, it would absolutely be Numinous. There's no question. But the issue I'm having is that when I go to reach for one of these types of decks for client work, I first think of This Might Hurt. And if I want to shake things up just a little, which doesn't happen that often, if I'm being completely honest, then the other deck that I think of is my Good Karma Tarot. And I do love this deck. I think it's really fun. I think it's clever the way that the symbology works its way, kind of sneaks its way into this deck. I like this art style a lot. It's really fun. It's a really well done deck. It feels, again, very, very current and very relatable. I like it. I like it a lot. And I do reach for it a lot. So I reach for this one a lot for client readings, and I reach for This Might Hurt a lot for client readings. And then the rest of these decks literally just languish. And that's not fair. And I think really the problem with these three is a lack of bonding time. And I don't know that I'm ever going to properly get the bonding time because I just really reach for these two. And these are workhorse client reading decks for me. Not to say these couldn't be, but I don't. I've also got another deck that almost ended up in this pile, and it's my Textured Tarot. So between this deck, and the Textured Tarot, I just feel like I can't imagine. I don't ever want to reach for these three above those three, if that makes sense. Now, Modern Witch is really cool. It's a really, really cool deck. It's a great Rider-Waite-Smith clone. It almost feels a little too Rider-Waite-Smith. It's like the exact same scenes, just recolored, repainted with some modern elements and new characters. And I think it's just close enough to Rider-Waite-Smith that I tend to not reach for it because it kind of gives me the same sort of bored feeling that Rider-Waite-Smith gives me, which is not the fault of this deck. I think this is excellent. And as much as this cardstock is so difficult to riffle shuffle, it feels really awesome and sturdy. And it feels like the kind of deck I could take, like I've talked about this before, to like a bar and put on a sticky table and like wipe off when I'm done, and it would survive. And that's a really cool thing about it. And it's the one reason why I often have hesitated to declutter it. But the reality is that it's a very female-focused deck, which is fine, except for the fact that I don't assume the gender of my clients. If you book a reading with me and your name is Bob, I'm still going to try real hard not to assume that your gender is male. And similarly, I don't, the problem for me with this deck is that I don't reach for it for client work, which is exactly the kind of deck I want to be able to reach for client work. And there's nothing wrong with pulling an all-female deck for somebody who doesn't identify female, except for that I could end up putting somebody in an uncomfortable position. I could make them feel like I've made an assumption when I haven't. And it's something I think about. And because I think about it, I hesitate to reach for it. And because I hesitate to reach for it, it doesn't get any airtime. So it's languishing. But it's so fun. It's such a fun deck. But I think it's time for me to let it go. And I was pretty sure that's where this was going to go, but that is where it's gone. So Modern Witch is going to go. And again, I will defend the cardstock, even though it's really annoying to shuffle. It gets harder from here. Okay, let's talk about Lunasol. I don't know. So Lunasol, I did a deep dive, actual walkthrough on this deck. The symbolism is incredible. This deck is fantastic for that. But when I think about this deck next to these decks, I know myself. I'm always drawn to vibrant, rich color. It's just a thing that happens to me again and again and again. If I have decks in a similar space, wow, that's a lot of blood on that card, I just realized. When I have decks that operate a similar space, if I have one that's vibrantly colored, and I love the pastels in this. I think this is a gorgeous color palette. But I just know myself, and there's something about my personal psychology that always has me reaching for vibrant, bold color. And I think despite the rich symbology of this deck, like I love this Eight of Swords. I love that she's up on a tower. This is such a smart deck. It's so, so well done. I really, 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 really like it. Like I really, really like it. But again, the only time I ever want to reach for a deck like this is for client readings. And unless I make myself, I don't. I really prefer to reach for these two. So again, I think the Lunasol is also going to go. Oh, that makes me so sad. Does that mean I won't have any Liminal 11 decks on hand? No, because I have Seed and Sickle still for now. I say ominously. No, it's okay. So that one's going to go. Which brings us to the Numinous. And this one is the hardest one for me because, again, the representation is incredible. And the symbology, I think I also did a deep dive on this one, actually. The symbology is wonderful. Cedar did an incredible job on this deck, on the artwork. There's something about the art style, something about the white outlining on a lot of the characters and some of the objects that does something to pull me out of the world and the artwork. Also, the renaming of the miners means I have to work a little harder initially. The candles is obvious, but I do struggle. I mean, bells, it's not that hard, honestly. I think I'm just looking for reasons, really, because the reality is that I've just never properly bonded. And again, I love the representation. This one does feel like it sits much younger. It has, I would say, the best ability representation in the deck, as far as varying levels of ability, which I think is fantastic. But I don't reach for it. And it's not helping me in my situation because I will always reach for This Might Hurt. Not because it's better, but because it's the one I'm more bonded to. So it's better for me, if that makes sense. And there are a few cards in here that I don't feel as connected to specifically, that feel a little more ethereal or a little less tangible. And I think for that reason, I do need to let it go. I do still have and love my Threadbound Oracle, which is why I got this. I got this because I like the Threadbound Oracle, but I've just never properly bonded to Numinous. It is an incredible deck. This is not a judgment on the deck. It's hurting me a little bit, but I just don't use it. So those 3 are going. Good Karma is staying for now. I could see this going in the future potentially, simply because I use This Might Hurt so much. But for now, 2 in this category feels a lot less overwhelming than 5. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. This Might Hurt and Good Karma will stay. And Lunasol, Numinous, and Everyday Witch are going. And that brings us to our very last set. The Cosmo Beings Tarot by Joanna Nelson. Next to the Divine Feminine Oracle by Kokarina. These are very slidey. Stay. Let me pop up the poll. This one was so tight. Oh, it's sliding. They're very slidey. Have I mentioned they're slidey? Stay. Stay. Okay, so 52% voted in favor of Divine Feminine and 48% in favor of Cosmo Beings. So I would say before Cosmo Beings, this was the deck that I thought of when I would think of something that feels like it's connected to cosmic energy. This cardstock is something special. It's called Super Luxe, if I remember correctly, and there's these like beautiful gold foil details on a lot of the cards. They're gorgeous. There's these like hints of sparkle and shine. It's really beautiful. Here's my problem with this deck, and I knew this was a risk with this deck when I got it. All of the people in these cards are like kind of model-esque, like stereotypical model-esque, much like in the True Black Tarot. And I never got the True Black Tarot for this reason, because at the minute they're all naked, which is fine. They're all naked, but they're all naked and they're all this one specific body shape. There's like no variance whatsoever in the body shape of these characters, at least not a variance that's noticeable to me. But I kind of talked myself through that when I got the deck by thinking, okay, but I'm thinking of these as star girls, right? They can be whatever, it doesn't matter. But it doesn't feel, it feels cold to me because of that. It's beautiful, but it doesn't feel like a deck. It doesn't feel like me at all. But I was like, yeah, but it's the only one that feels like it's like set in the cosmos that I feel really attracted to, which was true until I got the Cosmo Beings Tarot by Joanna Nelson. And you guys know how bonded I am to my Mons Tarot. I really didn't think I was going to be able to bond to another Joanna Nelson deck because I'm just so bonded to Mons Tarot. But this feels like it's set in the cosmos, in the universes, in other worlds, and that does it for me. And these monsters are so much more relatable to me than these figures. These feel like quirky characters who are inviting me into their world, a little bit like a trip down the rabbit hole. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't have to look like them to feel invited by them, to feel welcomed by them. They're non-human. So in that way, I don't do the automatic thing where I'm thinking about them as human. They feel otherworldly. They are otherworldly. So I get to connect to the cosmos in this really sweet way. And it's not pulling me out of its world with its perfected beauty like it happens with this one. So for that reason, the Cosmo Beings is absolutely staying. I think it's a really special deck. And the Divine Feminine, while I think it is also a really special deck, it just hits flat for me. It is a beautifully produced deck. The gilding, the cardstock, it feels almost like plastic. It's hard to describe. It's very, very smooth and flexible. It shuffles. It's so slippery, but it shuffles so beautifully. It's silky. It's smooth. I mean, I don't have any other deck with cardstock like this. Like I said, it feels like it could be made of plastic. But it's not. It's called Super Luxe cardstock. Anyways, it's gorgeous. Aesthetically, this deck is beautiful. Ever since I've got it, it's hung on my rack, and I think I've only used it maybe twice. But these both feel cosmic. I'm going to go with the cosmic that speaks to me more. Okay, I'm going to blow out my candle and get it out of the way, and we're going to do a final tally. That's 15 decks staying out of all of these decks. And 18 decks going. So 15 staying, 18 going. I think I did a really good job here. I think all of these, when I say going, again, as a reminder, they will go away for a while. And if I feel like I'm missing any of them, if I feel like, wow, I really feel like my collection, or my library rather, is lacking now, then I will go in and pull some of these back in. But for right now, this feels like I've made the right decision. I feel a lot clearer in what I have. And I'm excited to continue to refine my collection in this way over time. I really enjoy checking in with myself, being honest about what's no longer working, and sort of keeping my library a living, breathing, organic thing for me that is useful and that doesn't make me feel overwhelmed, and where everything has a place and I feel like has a purpose and they're not competing with one another. And so I'm getting closer and closer to that space as I continue this series. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this process. I hope none of this was too heartbreaking for you to watch. Please know that anything that does eventually get rehomed will get rehomed somewhere it can get used and loved by someone who will enjoy it and put it to more use than I am. Thank you again so, so much. Please do comment below. Share your thoughts with me. Please be kind. And I just wanted to say that I really, really appreciate you so, so much. For Unicorn Fam members, I have filmed a bit of a behind the scenes on sort of how I go about this process. So keep an eye out. That will be coming out for members, for channel members, I think next week. So keep your eyes out for that. That was a requested video. So if you are interested in any additional content from me or behind the scenes type content from me, check out the Unicorn Fam channel membership. I will have a link to that in the description box down below so you can check it out. Or if you are on a device that supports the join button, you'll see that next to the subscribe button or right around there underneath this video or beside this video, I guess, depending on how your device is laid out. Check that out. I do lots of extra stuff over there and it's really a fun space. We have several tiers. You can learn more about it. But in general, you guys, thank you all so much for being here, for engaging with my content, for watching my content. Just that helps a lot. Liking it if you enjoyed it, subscribing, ringing the bell, doing all the good, fun, YouTube-y things. If you enjoy this kind of content, definitely stick around. I do tend to make long form content, quite long videos sometimes, as you can see. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, if you enjoy sort of looking at continuing to refine a usable library of decks, if that sort of content appeals to you, seeing new things, but also not being afraid to move things out, then you're probably in the right space here. I make a lot of videos. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, hang around with us and just be part of our little group here. It's really fun to see new faces in the chat, or new names in the chat. It feels like faces. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to be awkward now, so I'm going to end this video. Thank you so, so much again, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys.